The Jamie Dyer Show.
My guest today is Sandy Nussbaum Giercyk, who is joining me right now. Welcome to the podcast, Sandy. Tell me, what is your passion?
Thanks, Jamie. I'm excited to be here to talk about Disney. I love all things about Disney travel.
Wow, Disney travel. So what does that entail? We know what Disney is, but Disney travel, I assume that's something to do with the parks?
It's with the parks, their resorts. So I own a travel agency that is exclusive to Disney. We only book vacations for people wanting to go to a Disney destination. It might be one of their parks like Orlando, Florida, California, Paris. It might be their cruise ship, their resorts in Vero Beach and Hilton Head Island. They have a resort in Hawaii. And then one of my favorite Disney vacations is what they call Adventures by Disney. They're small group guided tours to bucket list destinations around the world. So I've traveled with them to Italy, Peru, Costa Rica, the Rhine River. They just have amazing opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many attractions around the world, as you say, with the name Disney attached to it. And I don't know whether you've seen that amazing documentary that's on Disney Plus, which is really, it started out as all about the original park that Walt Disney came up with, and some of the ideas in which he spearheaded were really ahead of their time. I mean, you say you've been all around the world. Give us a little bit of a guided tour as to kind of where you've been.
Probably quicker to say where I haven't been. I am based in New Jersey. I am fortunate because of my career that I am in Orlando, Florida, 6 to 8 times a year. In a typical year, I'm out in Disneyland at least once a year, on a cruise ship, typically twice a year, and then one of these guided tours. And the guided tours don't all involve Disney parks. They're about Disney style and service. So I have climbed Machu Picchu with them. I have rafted rivers in Central America. We did the Danube River. I did the Rhine River this past year. I'm doing the Danube River cruise with them this year. But one of my favorite adventures by Disney is actually a little bit similar to what you were just discussing. They have one called Backstage Magic, and it's 6 nights in Southern California, where you do Hollywood, the Jim Henson Studio, and then you actually get to go backstage in the parks and into Disney Imagineering. So we've seen projects that they're working on before they've hit the public, and we really get to kind of watch how that creative process and that inspiration comes to be.
Yeah, those people, the Imagineers, are utterly incredible. And as I say, that Disney Plus documentary, I do recommend checking out. I mean, how do you get into basically working for Disney in this way? Were you a fan prior?
So I was a fan, but I will make a quick clarification. I'm not actually employed by Disney. We're an independent agency that is ranked by Disney. So I kind of have the best of both worlds. They know who I am and I work with them, but I am my own boss as well. I loved Disney as a child. I am almost 50 years old. So when I was a child, there was Disneyland, as you said, the original park, and Walt Disney World. And there were only 2 hotels and a campground at Walt Disney World the very first time I went. And if you wanted a shirt with Mickey Mouse or any Disney merchandise, you had to go to Disney. There was no such thing as a Disney store. You couldn't buy Disney merchandise anywhere else. That licensing is relatively new. And I remember going as a young child and feeling that Disney magic, meeting Mickey, watching the parades, seeing the fireworks, and I loved it as a child. We went back every 3 to 4 years. I grew up in a family where my father didn't fly, so it was a long drive to make it, but we made it. I went as a young engaged and married couple, and then we took my daughter when she was young. And it was just always my happy place. When I had some life changes, I got divorced. I needed a career that allowed me a lot more flexibility. I was traveling for work and honestly bribing my daughter, stay home and be with Grandma and Pop. and I'll take you to Disney the week after my work is over, because I did a lot of conference planning. And I had somebody approach me and say, hey, I know you went to Disney 3 times last year. I don't know anyone else that does that. Could you help us? And my mom has a travel agency and she'd love an expert. And it all really started with my passion for it and my love that no matter what was going on in life, if you walked into that magical kingdom, you could transport yourself and your family and make memories and forget about the outside world and really just enjoy.
I mean, it sounds like it was a dream come true for you.
I am blessed to do a job that I love. I am lucky that people let me be part of making their memories and creating those experiences for them. I love working with people who are taking their child for the first time. Maybe I'm working with a honeymoon couple. We've done some difficult trips. I've helped people plan end of life trips when they know it's going to be the last opportunity to travel with their family. But I'm super blessed that people give me the opportunity to get into their family that way and help them create those memories of a lifetime.
Well, you've got a very personal approach to it, which I think is what Disney loves. I think that's what they love. They love the personal approach to it. Now, if I might get a little bit serious for a minute, because you just said that you are a travel agent kind of connected to Disney. Now, obviously, the words travel agent in 2020 are a little bit of it's a dodgy business, isn't it? Because of the whole COVID thing. Have you noticed, I'm sure you have, a kind of downturn in people traveling this year?
Sure. It's been a rough year. It's been nothing like we would have predicted. Quite frankly, even if you and I had this interview in April, right after COVID lockdown started in the US, I would have said to you, it's coming to an end soon. I never would have thought 8 months later, we'd still be having COVID discussions and not really sure when the end is. The Disney parks all closed down in the middle of March. We're recording in November. Disneyland out in California still has not reopened. Walt Disney World opened some of their resorts the end of June, their theme parks the beginning of July. I will say now, it's a place for me of peace and comfort and love. So I literally was the first guest on property the day they reopened the resort. 6:30 in the morning, I checked in. I was guest number 1. I have been back since June. I've made 5 trips back to the Walt Disney World in Orlando so that I could experience everything. I could be comfortable with it. And I could talk to people about what does it mean to travel in what I now call a mid-COVID time. We're not really post-COVID. We're in the middle of it. It is definitely safer to travel, though I believe that's a personal preference. Some people are comfortable with it. Some people are not. Disney, I think, is doing exceptional work. I feel safer in Disney than I feel in my local supermarket. I have been on 16 planes. I have stayed in 7 different hotels for over 30 nights. And I've embraced that magic because, again, you can walk through the gates of Disney and my body just de-stresses. You really kind of get invigorated. And I was missing that. My clients were missing that. We definitely have some people that are still postponing, but we have a lot of people now. It's been, we do have clients, as I said, all around the world, but I also have a lot of people local to me in New Jersey, where we were one of the first states to really shut down along with New York and Connecticut. And so now people have been shut down for 8 months. It's getting hard to stay shut down. They want that change. I've had clients, because their kids are virtual schooling, they're schooling in their hotel room in Disney in the morning and doing the parks in the afternoon and evening. So we're talking to people. We're looking at it, as you said, very personally. What is your family looking for? What would this trip look like for you that would be different than the last time you traveled? Is it something you're not only comfortable with, but happy about? I had a client say to me, "You're going to take a picture with your mask on in the Magic Kingdom in front of the castle? Why would I ever want to see that picture again in my life?" And I said, "Well, to be honest, the first picture I took with a mask on in the Magic Kingdom was really hard for me. It's not what I want to think of when I think of Disney. But the reality is, 20 or 30 years from now, this is a point of history. Wearing our mask is what 2020 is, and proving that we're going to go on with life because life is so special and delicate that we're going to go on and we're going to do it safely how we have to do. A picture of me in a mask in front of the castle in Magic Kingdom is a 2020 reality check and a 2020 memory.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I'm sure that the audience will agree. It's fantastic to hear that Disney are definitely taking precautions and, as you say, giving that personal service depending on the situation, because it's all over the world now. I'm not sure about in the other countries what it's like, but to know that some of those parks are open, that there are measures in place, is a very positive thing, because people like that escapism, and that's what Disney is all about.
I've been teasing some of my clients and talking about we plan memories. That's really what I get to do. I help you create that family time. And I've said to a lot of people, listen, I know you've been locked down with your family. The last thing you want is more family time. But vacation is different family time. It's not pick up your socks and is your homework done. It's smiles on faces, being together and enjoying and relaxing.
It's a different kind of energy. I mean, to ask about your personal opinion, like when you go to any of the parks, what's kind of a highlight for you? Is there something you always go to first?
For me, there's something about walking down Main Street, entering the Magic Kingdom and kind of going down that street and seeing that castle the very first time it comes into view. I've been to the parks probably close to 300 to 400 times. As I said, I go multiple times a year, but equally to what do I do first? Typically, the last time I leave Magic Kingdom each trip, I still cry. It's hard to leave. It is a magical place that lets you release any worries you have in life and kind of restart, and you know that you'll be back for more magic.
Yeah, it's a positive thing, and it changes, I think, throughout the world, because there are different parks throughout the world, including our nearest, which is in Paris. Do you notice any kind of cultural changes in each park?
There's definitely a difference. I've been to Disneyland Paris. I actually very unplanned ended up there on Bastille Day a couple of years ago, so it was an extra special experience. All of the parks have different cultures. When I go out to California, it's the original park. I can feel Walt's presence. It is super small, but it's similar to Paris in that the two parks, where Florida has 4, California and Paris both have 2, and they're right near each other. You can walk from one to the other in minutes. I think as Americans, if I think about a big difference in our parks versus Paris, we do a lot more food and fast food in America, where in Paris, there are more limited dining offerings and they're looking for different experiences. It's also unique as it's a bilingual park. So when we do planning with guests there, if you're not fluent in both French and English, we plan for you a little bit differently, because you can't go to every show. You need to go to the one in the language that you're going to understand, unless, as we say to some people, you can actually make Disney a phenomenal educational experience. Maybe you have a child because you're French who's studying English, or you're from America and you have a child who's studying France. What better way to immerse yourself in the language than to go see a Disney show where you have an idea of the theme and the storyline, and it helps you immerse into that language and culture?
Yeah, there are so many. I mean, I only know from what I see on footage, because I haven't actually managed to make it there yet, unfortunately. But the amount of spectaculars. I mean, certainly from what I've seen, and I don't know whether it is the same in recent years, but I've seen footage from when the park in Paris first opened, and they'd have parades with different statues and different characters. And it's just, I just marvel at it, and I can see why you would feel sad to leave it, because it must be quite an overwhelming atmosphere.
It really is. And sometimes that's one of the things we talk to people when planning. They have such attention to detail that some days it can be a little bit of sensory overload. And that's why taking a break and sitting down for a meal, or maybe even going back to your resort to swim for a little bit, brings you kind of back down and then back into the magic. And those parades, even now, as we're in this mid-COVID time, we don't have parades right now because we don't want people to wait and gather, but we don't want to miss that magic. So we have what's called a cavalcade. It's a mini parade, and it's spontaneous, and they happen typically once or twice an hour. And so you might be walking down the street in Paris, in Orlando, and all of a sudden, here comes a big float and music, and Mickey's coming down the street, or the princesses are coming down the street. Because it doesn't matter how old you are. We all know that Mickey is real. There's only one. The princesses are all real. You really get transported into that atmosphere when you're there. And I think that's one of the things that makes it an adults-only destination as well. You can go back to being a kid and having less weight of the world on your shoulders and just get immersed in that fun and excitement.
I must say, your enthusiasm is infectious. And I can tell that you are a massive fan. And that's always a great thing, because when somebody is selling you something, you want to know that they're as enthusiastic about it, as you hope to be. And it definitely seems like that. And on that particular subject, is this kind of an all year round thing, or are there quiet periods where people aren't going as much?
I would say a little bit the opposite. There are definitely really busy periods more than there are quiet periods. Disney is never quiet. But it's funny, we'll have clients call us and say, I'm thinking of going for Christmas. I'm imagining the parks are empty. And I say to them, actually, the opposite. Christmas and New Year's, the most crowded days of the year. Sometimes they even hit capacity and they have to turn people away. So holidays, school vacations, those are your more crowded times. If you're looking for a less crowded period, it's in the US, it's typically September when the kids are back in school, January post-holiday when people are trying to not use all their vacation days at the start of the year. So if you're looking for a quieter theme park time, that's definitely when I would look to head there.
I'm sure there are many people that will find that very useful. And I'm not surprised at all that the park is rarely empty, because it really is a magical place. All of those, because they're all pretty much on a very similar theme, aren't they? They're all kind of based on some of Walt's original ideas and stuff they've come up since then. So if people wanted to find out more about what you do, where would they need to go?
Our agency website is www.Z as in zebra, DISEZ.com, because we make your vacation planning easy. And I'm also the weekly featured guest on a podcast called Let's Talk Diz, where each week we talk about a different topic in Disney vacation planning. And you can find that on your favorite podcast player.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure there are many people that will go and check that out. And what is, I mean, actually, while you mention that, what is the first step to planning your vacation in the manner that you just suggested?
So definitely hop on our website. You can submit a request. One of the things I like people to know is we're commissioned by Disney. So whether you work with us and get all of our free planning services, or you plan on your own on Disney's website, it's going to cost you the same thing, but you're going to end up with a very different experience. We believe that there's not a one-size-fits-all answer for everybody. The length of your stay, your budget, the makeup of your family, whether you're early risers or evening people, impact all of those planning elements. So depending on our client, we'll typically do either a phone consultation initially, 15 minutes to 45 minutes, depending how much time you want to give us, or we can do some of those questions via email. And then we work back and forth to curate the perfect trip for you. We make what we call a park planning grid to help you figure out which park is going to be the least crowded each day of your trip, make dining reservations for you, fast passes, and really figure out what's going to create the best experience for your family.
Well, I hope that once we get post-COVID, that your phone is ringing off the hook and you're able to book, perhaps with a little bit more ease, next in the next few months or so. And I'd like to say thank you for coming on and spreading some of that Disney magic as well, because I personally love Disney as a brand, and I hope to get to at least one of the parks somewhere in the world one day. And it might even be with yourself. You never know. Well, I'd like to say, Sandy, thank you so much for appearing on the podcast today.
Thanks, Jamie. I loved being here, and I wish you and all of the listeners pixie dust and magic in the year ahead.
The Jamie Dyer Show.